Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tommy and this is Tommy's Tech, Travel, and Collectibles. But we do more than just that on this channel. We also write and produce comic books. We create other things. And well, we travel and have fun as a family doing random things. Today's been one of those days where I show you the process of what it is to make and produce comic books. I got a lot in store today and I got a lot of things to show you. Oh, the joys of small business ownership. Let's get started. Quite frankly, there's a lot that goes into starting a small business, but more importantly, a small business that's centered around creative endeavors. So for example, I write and produce comic books, and that's something I was very passionate about for a long time that I got away from when, life gets in the way and life happens. And I started focusing more on my career and development and making sure everything's taken care of as far as my family's needs and everything else goes, which, obviously that's my job and that's my true passion. I decided I missed that creative part of my brain and allowing it to exercise every now and then. So I decided I want to get back into producing comics, but I decided if I'm going to do it this time, we're going to do it right. So I ended up forming our LLC and forming all the stuff to help protect us as a brand and as an identity, and that's no easy task by itself. If you want to create comics or create something that's creative and truly do it right, there's a lot of steps that go into it. So it's not just the fun portion, which is the creative process, but also the distribution, the licensing, the copyrights, everything else. And weirdly enough, I actually find that really fun. It's like right now, for example, I just took my oldest son to school and I came home, so now I'm going to check some of my email, both personal and for the business. And then I'm also going to work on my scripts a little bit. Because you can't produce anything if you don't have the scripts formed, especially when it comes to comic books. Because make no secret, I'm a huge comic book fanatic. Got some original artwork right here. I got some of my signed movie posters over here. Got the Turtles signed by Kevin Eastman. My Spider-Man poster signed by Stan Lee, and all this original artwork from everybody from Jim Lee to George Perez to Ryan Otley to Corey Walker to Kevin Eastman again. This is something I truly love and passionate about, and I'm very fortunate to even play in the area of those who I truly admire and respect. So I take this very, very seriously, and I want to try and make it something bigger than what it was before, and into something that, I don't know, one day my kid's going to look at it and realize, oh, Dad wasn't just a total nerd, he was actually kind of really into this and sort of good at it. Well, the business part, I don't know about the creative part. That's up to you, but you can buy your books here at sillymonkey.com. But I digress. That's just me doing the playful repartee to try and get you to purchase our meager products. But I thought I'd take a moment here and just kind of talk to you fine folks about kind of the process of creating something from beginning to end. So I would like to make a little series of these videos about the actual production of a comic book from beginning to end, but also I'll kind of review what we've done in the past and what the steps kind of entail going forward. So for example, I'm working on the scripts right now. Specifically, I have 3 scripts in the works. One that's completely done that I just got to work with the artist that did the first book, or if we can't figure out a schedule or timetable, I do have to move on to see if I have another artist who's willing to jump in. The other 2 scripts I'm working on, well, let's go over all of them. The one that's completed and done is The Absurdly Normal Life of Lawrence Hadley, issue 2, where our character, if you read the first one, which you probably haven't, but they're available, is about a guy who's going through a hard time in life and he decides to go back to school. But on his way to go back and enroll in school, he slips through a hole and falls to an alternate dimension where it's inhabited by mythological creatures of lore, and they lead normal, boring lives just like ours. And he has to navigate through it. The way it's been described in the past is, think Seinfeld meets mythology, which I thought was an apt description, and it made me happy. This newest issue is going to deal with him being an illegal immigrant in the world of Pan. The other one is Brief History in Time, issue 7, which is the 7th installment of our book about 2 kids that travel through time to save their grandfather. This is the one that kind of kicked off Silly Monkey Comics, and it's our flagship title because I noticed there wasn't a lot of all-ages comics anymore when you go to shows or LCSs and everything else, so I decided to write something that my then younger nieces and nephews could read, and now that's something my kids can read. But it's also written in a way where everyone in the family can enjoy it. It has definitely been our most popular title, and I can't wait to continue the story, and that's what we're going to be doing here with issue 7. And lastly is our follow-up to our Golden Age books, The Raven and The Inner Circle, that I'm doing with Eric Schock over at Evil Robo Productions. And this one's going to be called The Devil and the Guy with the Bat. It's kind of my take on 2 of the characters we touched on in The Inner Circle, and I want to make it gritty but really funny and encompass all the things that Eric and I love, which to me, it's the back and forth between characters. It's a character-driven piece, but also we gotta put in a lot of action, because I don't know if you've seen Eric's artwork, the dude kills action scenes. So I want to incorporate both and make sure it's something that we're both proud of. So these 3 scripts are currently completely in the works, but it's not just writing the script, it comes to the full production part as well. So here, let me show you kind of a little bit of a script and what that means going forward into comic book production. Okay, with all that being said, let's talk about what you actually probably tuned in to see, the actual production steps for making and producing a comic book. So let's start off with one of our existing titles that we're reprinting called The Raven. It was part of our Golden Age series that was done by myself and my friend Eric Schock from Evil Robo Productions. And let's go through the steps we went through in order to achieve the final book and the final process. So for starters, it's really hard to make a comic book if you don't have a concept and story. And as the writer, that's kind of where I came in. I decided to take on the challenge of writing a Golden Age book, a Golden Age inspired book. You see, Eric had a predilection towards Golden Age stuff, and he loved working on public domain characters, and educated me on the process of what it was to write and produce public domain characters. So I decided to take an existing property, in this case, The Raven, and turn it into something new and modern and pay homage to those who came before us. So after doing my research about Danny Darton and the character of the Raven and the history of the Raven, I decided to put together a general plot outline to see what Eric thought of it. Once he said he liked the idea and concept, that's when I rolled with it and started doing some character development. So I took Danny Darton and his girlfriend Lola Lash and her father, who was the chief of police, and I formed a new, more modern take on what the 1930s and 40s character was. Don't get me wrong, we still set it in the 1930s and 40s, and for this particular book, I still kind of rooted the storytelling and the writing style to that of the 1930s and 40s. That pulp superhero, but not with superpowers storytelling, the everyman character, if you will. And is truly inspired by Robin Hood. He robbed the evil criminals and basically gave it back to the people. So I took those characters and I created a few of my own, like Jonathan Terranova, which is going to be the mob boss of the area. And there's a character in there named Dizzy Jenkins. He only makes one brief appearance, but he was kind of like our character from like Casablanca. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now, but played by Peter Lorre. So I decided to pay homage to that because Casablanca is my favorite film of all times. Then once I went over that stuff with Eric, we moved on to script. And a little history on me, I always wanted to be a filmmaker, whether it was documentaries, actual cinema, or even TV shows. I just always wanted to do something in the film world. But specifically, I always wanted to be a screenwriter. So when I write my scripts, they're very, very film-like. In fact, I think, if I remember correctly, I used Final Draft to write this one many years ago. Don't have Final Draft anymore. It's expensive. So I just go with, writing regular Word documents or Pages documents, because once you know the format, you don't really need something to set it up for you like Final Draft did. You can do it and format it yourself. But in this particular case, we decided to keep it short to a 12-page concise script because we just wanted to see if A, we can make it together, and B, just make it something simple for the masses to enjoy and test the waters for our future project. And that's just what we did here. So you can see things like, there's a Judge Dent where we pay homage to the Dark Knight, Batman, and we just moved on from there. And looking back on this now, wow, I definitely had some grammatical errors, which is kind of funny. And, that's what it is. It goes from idea and concept to general idea to actual script. And that's where we move on to the next step, me submitting the script to Eric and seeing what his mind sees from the words I put on paper. So he's painting the actual picture to the one that I wrote with words, to the picture I painted with words. There it is. I'm a writer, I promise. And here's what I got back from Eric for page 1 of The Raven. These are his rough pencils. So if you see here, it's just rough ideas and concepts before we actually dove into what the actual artwork would look like. And I did something here, and you'll see I have going in Photoshop just to show you. I did some rough lettering to begin with, in order to just kind of, prove like the concept, to see kind of how the layouts would work, what the lettering would do, because I was going to letter this book. So I just wanted to see if it actually worked with what I saw in my mind as I wrote it, and what he saw when he read it. And, I guess, spoiler, it worked out pretty well. So these are the rough pencils, and then we moved on to the pencils and inks at that point. And here's our final inks with the initial lettering. So it looked really, really good. So once we kind of approved, that allows me the time to go back and do some rewriting, some final concept ideas, and Eric started working on the coloring of it. So it's a multi-step and multifaceted process. And after multi-rounds of back and forth through Photoshop, through Adobe Illustrator, and all the other different mediums you need to put your work through to make sure you're hitting the right concepts and ideas, this is what you end up with. This is page 1 from our original book, The Raven. And this is the final colors and the final lettering. I think we knocked it out of the park for what we were trying to achieve. And the really cool thing between Eric and myself, we're very efficient and we're very meticulous with our work. We can actually work pretty darn fast and pretty efficiently, which is really cool. Which is why I'm really excited to work on this new book with him again, because that process was just so easy, smooth, and seamless. We trusted each other. So in other words, if you're going to work with somebody, make sure that there's that equal trust and understanding. That's why you do something small like this to begin with before you dive into the larger project. And that's just my humble opinion based off of experience. So when he had a concern, he brought it up, and most of his concerns are well thought out and well spoken. And same thing with me. When I saw some of the art maybe I wanted to change or whatever, I didn't come out and say, oh, dude, I don't like that. No, it was like, hey, I thought we should do this and this because of X, Y, Z. What are your thoughts? And that way you open it up to a dialogue back and forth, and you guys can both speak about your pros and cons and come to a final conclusion. And then once this was done, that's when we moved into the fun part that most people don't consider when it comes to comic book production, because this is just the beginning steps of production. You actually have to go through the setup and the layouts and everything else. Let me show you that here. So generally speaking, I usually use a company up in Phoenix, Arizona called Artist Express. I've had a great long-standing relationship with the company, and I have had a long-standing relationship with one of their head honchos, and we also have a good friendship at this point. He's always helped me out back when he used to work for another production company, even over to this one. And what I love about their stuff is they actually do like templates for you. So you just say how many pages it's going to be, you download their template, and it's kind of like a plug and play now. Whereas when I used to do this way back when, they just told you what the sizes should be, and it was up to you to format it. And I know he used to get tired of me, my buddy over there, because I would send in stuff that I thought was formatted correctly, that I thought I formatted to their specs, and he's like, no. But he used to just kind of take care of it for me, so he's a good dude to know. I love Artist Express. I'll put their link down below. So if you're thinking about producing comics, they're not the cheapest, but they are the best. And that's just my humble opinion once again. But let me show you some of the layout stuff. And the last step is taking all those files that you've created and you've separated and you have mapped out and plug them into the template. Not every company has a template for you to follow for their printing and production, but that's why I like Artist Express. They make it a really user-friendly experience from beginning to end. It's not always been that case, but that's also back when they were a startup. But even when it wasn't as user-friendly, it was still better than any of the other companies that we had gone through in the early days. So let me show you how easy it is with them. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our cover, the back cover and front cover / interior front cover and interior back cover. So what you do is I click it. When it decides to load, this is what happens when you have too many windows open, people. Relink. See, I already have it kind of set up to go to the right place. And we're going to go this is going to be the back cover, which is this guy right here. And I have them formatted to be the correct size, but as you can see, it didn't actually fit completely in the frame. So I go into fitting and fit content to frame. And now it is ready to print with bleeds already included. So let's do the front cover as well. And it's going to be the same thing. Right click, fitting, and fit content to frame. Now this is the part I always get messed up and backwards, and these aren't going to be the final pages. I'm just showing you these for the sake of an example and preview of what we're going to do. So there you go, front cover and the back. So this goes right over here, same thing as before, fitting and content to frame. And over here we're going to relink as well. And we're going to go interior cover, which has our information in the front of the book. So like I said, these aren't going to be the final pages, but just to show you what it would look like, just for the sake of demonstration. Really simple. Then once you're done with that, you'll actually want to export it out as a PDF for your own records, and also to send it in for printing. At least I believe that's how they want it. I still got to verify that. But that's how you use Adobe Illustrator and the template from Artist Express to set up your comic once you get everything from beginning to end completed, and you want to have them saved as individual pages. Now I know this is a brief demonstration, but it was just to show you guys kind of a simple way to get it done and get it prepped for printing. And that's it. That's a really basic example of what to do to set up your comic and what we did to create a comic from beginning to end. Again, it wasn't meant to be a full tutorial or anything, it's just kind of giving you a glimpse. But I plan on making a series of these videos to show you the production of the upcoming books. And you know what? Who would I be if I didn't show you the completed example? So here's what the book looked like once it came back from printing. And this was printed by those at Artist Express. I'm going to open it up, and truth be told, it's the first time I've actually opened this one since I got it. So I keep a copy of everything I've ever written, and here we go. And I try to keep it as pristine as possible. And this is actually a longer, bigger version that was our Kickstarter campaign, which we'll probably end up doing for some of the other books going forward, because it's always nice to do those pre-orders to see how many people actually are interested in buying and also help with the production cost overall. So this one was kind of cool because it had a bunch of extra stuff in there, which is neat. Stuff I didn't include in this current printing that we're working on, like kind of what we discussed with you. The rough pencils, the inks, the color, and then the lettering. And then I also did a little tidbit in back talking about the history of the character. So that's it, beginning to end, how a book is roughly made. We'll go into more detail, like I said, in the future. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a comment down below letting us know. Or if there's other questions that you had I didn't answer, let me know down below as well so I can include that in a future video. Otherwise, stay tuned, like and subscribe if you haven't done so, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.